Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. Tune in for a vibrant mix of fashion, finance, and life's essential foundations. Join us for expert interviews, insightful discussions, and empowering insights to elevate your lifestyle. From fashion trends to financial tips and personal growth strategies, we've got you covered. So grab your headphones and get ready to be inspired. Tune in now to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show and embark on this exciting journey with us.
Welcome back to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. I am your host, Teresa Lawrence, here with guest Joe Rockey. When we left off, we were getting personal, entrepreneurially personal, because there is a trait in entrepreneurs that is, we don't want to work for other people. There is a reason that, creations happen, and they happen because we want to make life better, not only for ourselves, but for other people. And Joe was telling the story of how he started doing flips and rental properties, and then COVID hit, and how he couldn't evict people from his rental properties, and that's where he was at. So if you could continue, so that was the first business, because you had worked for people and it just wasn't working out. I have never enjoyed working for other people, ever. It is like the creative process happens when I'm allowed to create. And so keep sharing, please. What happened next after that?
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of the wrong things you weren't supposed to do during COVID. Right? Like when it first started, you want to talk about the bad stuff at the bottom. My business wasn't essential, but the beer distributors were. And I went through more kegs faster than I ever had in my life. I have a kegerator in my basement. It's one of the best investments you can make, actually. But it's a kegerator. And I woke up one day and realized all I was doing was screaming at the moon. It didn't matter if you actually listened to the news, what they said last week and what they said now are not the same thing. They're not even close to the same thing. It didn't matter listening and being able to tell that we're getting lied to, and the fact that it was personally affecting me and they didn't care. None of that part mattered. What I had to do was go with reality in the way that it was. And I was, like I said, not in a very good spot. And I looked around and realized I was far from the only person who was upset and angry about this, and realized that I was told I was an essential, which on a very personal level, you build something that is yours and you know that it's good. And for whatever reason, everyone else hasn't. I mean, businesses have experienced this from the market not adapting their product correctly, or in this case, the government flat out telling me. I took that with a lot of anger and vengeance. And I tried to focus and hone it into how we can make this better. And that was when I really started helping people who were also going through this spot of how to make their business work through COVID. And that was where we really started putting some of these tested, proven things I'd done in my own businesses. Because at that point, I'd already made a number of my business complete self-entities, completely without me being involved. And it was starting to do it to other industries outside of the real estate world. And that was the blessing that came out of the disaster that was COVID.
Yeah, I believe everything's a blessing. Everything. Yes. Even the disasters. Even you took that anger and that situation and you channeled it to create something good. That's why people are so very about life, because life does life, and how we react to it determines what sort of life we have. And you channeled that situation into something beautiful for other people and for you.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we did. Is that was where we really got into the consulting. That's when I started writing the book. And all that stuff started happening during that period.
How many books have you written?
Just this one, just Casino Sales Master. I have other ones in the process I'm thinking about writing, and some of them.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that in the last segment when we talk about all things.
Yeah.
So we're going back to the entrepreneurial thing. So you didn't finish with the rental properties. Do you still have them?
I do, but there's the passion behind them it's so dwarfed by the other stuff I'm making now. I have so much more. I don't go to courts anymore. I gotta tell you, it was before, the magistrate process of evicting a tenant, which is basically
Mhm.
part of doing business. It was just, you had to deal with it, but it is not fun. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's lying. The only truth is that the check bounced, and no one else really cares about anything else. So it's not a fun process, and I have basically phased that out of my world, and it is all about really rehashing people's businesses, rehabbing them, and to use the real estate term, to make them work without other people. That's what my consulting team does, and doing the sales incentive and the other massive events that we do for cruises. That's, and not to mention the revenue events we do for cruises. Those are actually funner. And you look at it, the world.
What's a revenue event?
Well, yours is going to be a revenue event.
Oh, that's right.
When
The
people come
fundraising.
onto a cruise, they,
Mhm.
they and they're able to help a group make revenue, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, if you were, okay, coaching students in a business school and they're about to go off into the world, what advice would you give to them that you wish you had when you were just getting out of school? Because you said specifically, when I got out of school, my goal was to be employable. I had this skill and that other skill. And then you turn around and said, I can't work for anybody. So
That's true. I would start with this. Virtually everything you've ever been told that requires affect, in terms of the way your demeanor needs to be, the way you need to dress, etc., will be a much bigger detriment than it will be an advantage. The skill set that will make you more successful than anything else is the combination of being willing to be vulnerable and humble. And if you can do that, it doesn't really matter where you start at. You will finish where you want.
isn't that beautiful, people? I want to hire this man because he gets it. It's the point. Don't show me who you think I want to see. Show me who you are. I want to trust people I do business with. And I don't know where the world is going, but I would like it to go in that direction. And I want young people to realize that it's more important for them to be who they are than to go into a space and pretend to be somebody else, because people are going to get that. And they're going to wonder why they're not being promoted. And they're not being promoted because they don't like what they're doing.
Well, that is certainly true, and this is part of a generational divide that is very true and real. It's actually the younger people who are the best at being able to identify that when someone's being fake or not real, because they grew up with an iPhone in their pocket for their entire lives, and they were there now with the pinnacle of filters and AI, everything trying to be fake and looking like one specific image that isn't real. And they can detect it better than anyone because they grew up in the mess. Which, by the way, don't put your kids through that if you can avoid it. It is much publications about how that will hurt your kids. Do not make them do this. But the reality is most of them have. So everything you said about being true, don't try to live behind a filter. Don't try to be an image someone wants you to be. Be real with yourself, puts you in a better spot. And then also be willing to be a butterfly and go to where the magnet takes you. Like, you don't have to be stuck where you're at. You don't need to be working for a Fortune 500 company. You don't need to be this, that, or the other. Now, if that's what you want, cool, awesome, have fun, be with Apple. But if that's not you, that's okay. And don't put yourself in boxes that you think you were supposed to be put in because that's what your upbringing told you.
No, that's beautiful. And then I want to talk about travel for a second, because you do travel with the cruises. And it is my belief that the more we meet people who are not like us and open ourselves up to interesting conversations like this, the more we learn, and the more we have a capability of just like, my goal is just peace. And I think, like, if we live authentically, we can truly develop world peace. And I watch kids play with each other, and they don't know religion, they don't know anything. They're just having fun on a playground, right? And I think only 10% of I don't know the statistics, but all of you guys with a phone, the iPhone that Joe's talking about, or any other phone, just look up the percentage of people who actually leave their towns, that leave their state. It's not that high. Mm-hmm. And I really want people to be open and curious as to why people think the way they do, they act the way they do. And those cruises, in addition to that, you get all sorts of people from I don't know if it's all over the world or all over the country, together. And they've all accomplished a goal to get there. But imagine, like, I would call it joy, even if it's a interesting experience. But can you talk about that? Like what you've learned with your travels, if you think it's important, and what advice you would give?
Absolutely. And this is going to be ironic from the guy who sells cruises. I don't think the travel part was the most important part you said. I think the most important part of what you said was willing to be open and to be curious. Because if you do that, I mean, technically you don't have to leave. If you're willing to be open and curious and just learn about what the guy 2 floors over from you is talking about or thinking about, they're different from you. I mean, you don't have to go to a different place to do that. I mean, many of us live around hundreds of people that we've never even talked to in our own neighborhoods or our own skyscrapers. And to me, that's the most important part. Now, obviously, I have a lot of personal joy doing it on Caribbean beaches and going to some amazing places like Athens and that. But it starts with that curiosity and wanting to be open yourself and being willing to learn.
And I want to go back to something that you said. It's about being willing to be open to learn. And during COVID, everybody did that via Zoom. So you're right. It's not about travel. You can, but having those conversations is so important. But you said something about your rental business, which I loved, which was I did everything wrong I could possibly do wrong while doing it, but you did it. And a lot of young people go off and they're afraid to fail. And I was having a conversation. Who was it? It was a beautiful gentleman who had run for president. It's true. Mm-hmm. His name is Gabriel. And we were talking about my students in Kenya. And he said, why are you setting it up this way? I said, because I don't want them to fail. And he turned to me and he goes, okay, stop right there. They're all going to fail. Get over that and just be prepared for what you're going to say to them when they do fail. So if you're coaching these kids, because let's say they're all at Ivy League schools. So they're all used to being really, really smart. And those at the top of those Ivy League schools are really, really smart. And they think they're all that. But the truth is, you enter the world and start failing. And that really, you can tell who the true leaders are because of what happens next. So Talk to me, Joe. Consult.
Well, that advice 100% true is that you're going to fail, that there's going to be moments that you don't like what's happened. It literally goes back to your childhood and the way that it is all of us have things happen to us that we didn't like. Some people have bigger things in their lives they didn't like happen. Some people with smaller. But the bottom line is everyone had something happen to them that they were not a fan of. And how we interact with ourselves, knowing that there's a possibility of that coming up, something that I'm not going to like occurring, goes back to a theme you've been saying throughout the show. It's not that bad things happen. It's how you react to them is what will define you. And being able to gently speak to yourself and being able to prepare yourself for this part could be scary. I might lose. I might scrape a knee, whatever. I broke my arm falling off a bike going down a really fast hill. Whatever the case might be that you experienced when you were younger can stay with you forever. And being able to talk to yourself through your newer, older eyes can change your world. And preparing people for that is part of growth. It's ironic, Teresa, you are the butterfly lady. And it shows that transformation. Caterpillars don't have awesome times. They don't, if you really look at it objectively. But they come into some of the most beautiful things out there. You got to be willing to get bloodied and broken a little bit. And that's part of life.
See, that's beautiful. I actually had to, for everybody watching, we time our segments, but of course I pressed the button and I stopped the timer and then I started it again. So I have no idea where we are. It's true.
I think we went about 3.5 long. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So with that, it's time for our commercial break, and we will be...
Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show, where we talk about food, fashion, finance, and foundations of life. We are live on KCAA Radio Broadcasting Network. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Connect, and Building Solid Foundation.